Something is changing in the UK, and most people haven't fully noticed it yet, because for a long time, the direction was clear. If you wanted to move forward, you went south, towards London, towards opportunity, towards everything that felt like progress. But now, that direction isn't as fixed as it used to be, and, slowly, without much noise, people are starting to move the other way. For a long time, moving north didn't feel like progress, it felt like the opposite. If you were building a career, you went south. If you wanted more opportunity, you went to London. That was just how things worked. But now, that pattern is starting to reverse. Not completely, not for everyone, but enough to notice, enough to matter, because more and more people are choosing to move north, and not just temporarily, not just to save money for a year, but to actually build their lives there. So the obvious question is, why now? Why is something that used to feel like a step down starting to feel like the smarter move? It starts with something simple: cost. Because London didn't just become expensive, it became difficult to justify. For years, people accepted the trade. High cost for high opportunity. You paid more, but you gained access to jobs, to networks, to experiences. But over time, that balance started to shift, because the cost kept rising, and rising, and rising. While the benefits? They didn't rise at the same pace. Rent took a larger share of income, saving became harder, buying property felt further away, and everyday life became more restricted. You see it when someone realizes most of their income is going on rent, and they're still not moving forward, still renting, still delaying plans, still adjusting just to stay in the same position. So people adapted. At first, they shared flats longer, moved further out, cut back where they could, but eventually, adaptation turns into something else. It turns into questioning. You stop asking, how do I make this work, and start asking, do I actually need this? And once that question appears, it opens the door to something else, alternatives, because for a long time, moving north didn't feel like a real option. It felt like compromise, like you were stepping away from opportunity, but that perception is changing, and it's changing fast. Cities like Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield, and Liverpool aren't the same cities they were 10 or 15 years ago. They've grown, not just in size, but in relevance. Take Manchester. For years it was strong, but now, it's becoming a center in its own right. Major companies are investing, media, tech, finance, industries that once concentrated heavily in London are now spreading, and when that happens, jobs follow, opportunities follow, people follow, and the difference is noticeable. You're not just leaving London, you're moving towards something that's improving, which changes everything, because now the decision isn't stay in London or fall behind, it becomes stay in London or move somewhere that might actually work better. Leeds is another example, less talked about, less hyped, but quietly expanding. Strong financial services, growing digital sector, increasing population, and, importantly, a different pace of life, which matters more than it used to, because priorities are shifting. For a long time, people were willing to sacrifice everything for career growth, time, space, comfort, balance. But now, more people are asking, what's the point of earning more, if most of it disappears into rent? What's the point of living in a major city, if you don't have time to enjoy it? What's the point of being in the center of everything, if you're constantly stretched? And those questions don't lead to dramatic decisions straight away. They build slowly, until eventually, they lead somewhere. And more often than not, that somewhere is north. Because when people actually compare the options, the difference becomes clear. Lower housing costs, more space, shorter commutes, less pressure. You might earn slightly less, but you keep more. And more importantly, you so arbersio, you var feel, arbiditni arbeind. Life becomes easier to manage, more predictable, more stable. And this is where things really change, because once someone experiences that difference, their expectations shift. Then there's another factor, one that quietly changed everything: remote work. Because before, your location was tied to your job. If your career was in London, you had to be there. Now, that link isn't as strong. Hybrid roles, remote positions, flexible arrangements, they've all created something new, choice, and once people have choice, they start using it. They try living somewhere else, just to see. And that's where things really change, because once someone experiences life outside London, without losing their income, their perspective shifts. They realize they don't need London as much as they thought. Not for everything, not for everyone, but for many, it's no longer essential. And once that mental shift happens, it's hard to reverse, because you've seen the alternative. And for a lot of people, it feels better. Not more intense, not more exciting, but more balanced. And right now, balance is winning. Of course, moving north isn't perfect. There are trade-offs, fewer opportunities in certain industries, smaller networks, less global exposure. London still operates on a different level in many ways, but that's the point. It used to be the only level that mattered. Now, it's just one option, and when something becomes optional, it becomes something people evaluate. They compare, they weigh up, they choose, and when enough people make that choice, patterns begin to form. More people moving north, more investment following them, more development, more attention, and over time, that builds momentum. Not explosive, but steady, and steady growth is often the most powerful kind, because it lasts. But there's another side to this. Growth creates pressure. As these northern cities expand, they begin to face the same challenges. Housing demand increases. Prices rise. Infrastructure starts to stretch. And slowly, some of the same issues appear, just at a different scale. That's the cycle. Growth creates opportunity. Opportunity attracts people. People create pressure. Pressure creates change, and the pattern repeats. So, the North isn't perfect. It's just earlier in the cycle, still offering better value, still offering more space, still offering opportunity, without the same level of strain, and that's what people are responding to. Because, in the end, most people aren't chasing the best place. They're chasing the best balance between cost and lifestyle, between opportunity and comfort, between ambition and stability. And right now, for a growing number of people in the UK, that balance is shifting north. Not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily, quietly, until one day, you look at the bigger picture and realize something has changed. Because what's happening here isn't just about people moving, it's about the direction of the country shifting. For a long time, everything pointed towards London. Now, it's starting to spread, and when movement spreads, opportunity spreads, choice spreads, growth spreads. And that creates something the UK hasn't had in a long time. Real alternatives, not just one obvious path, but several. And once people realize that, they stop following the same route. They start taking different ones. And right now, more of those routes are leading north. And if that continues, the UK won't suddenly look different overnight. But over time, it will feel different, more balanced, more distributed, less centered around one place. And London, it won't disappear. It won't decline dramatically. It will still matter. A lot. But it may no longer be the default. And that might be the biggest shift of all.